I hope this Sunday that you can join us at the South Point Church of Christ. I really hope that you can. Let me rephrase exactly how I'm saying that so that you hear it the way I mean it. I hope that Sunday we are able to meet on Sunday morning at the South Point Church of Christ, and that as we do that, that you will come and be a part. Our design is to have a worship service at 8:30. Classes after that starts about 9:40, and then we have a second worship service at 10:30. Would love to have you at any and all of those. And then also at 5 p.m., we have a special service on Sunday night because the elders are going to be speaking to us. And they've got some things they want to lay out about future plans, about things that are happening right now, talk a little bit about some financial matters that I think are important to all of us, and then talk in particular about the future planning of a building and what are the intentions there, and when do we think that might happen? And who's involved with that? Also talk some about leadership and the future. I think that's an important piece too that we need to be thinking about. So plan to come Sunday if you can. Be at all those services. That might mean that we have another impromptu cleanup session in the parking lot that we did, like we did last week, which worked out great, and everybody showed up, and it worked really, really well. We're also hoping that this will be through on Saturday, the snow and such, in a time where we can get the parking lot cleaned on Saturday night, and then we can be here for worship on Sunday morning. That's what we're going to shoot for. That's what we're going to hope for. That's what we're going to pray for. So be praying about that we can meet on Sunday for our regular times as we would like to. And so that would be excellent if we could. In planning for that, I want us to think for just a few minutes about what Sunday morning's lesson is going to be about. It's coming from Romans 6 and 7, and it's about grace. It's called Amazing Grace, and grace is amazing. It's a wonderful thing. It's incredible that God gives us this grace, this freedom from sin, and a chance to start over and have a new life. And in Romans, Paul really talks about this, trying to help that church, those people there in Rome, understand what it means to now no longer be under the law, but under grace. Now, some of these people had been living as Jews. They were Jewish people. That's how they were born. That's how they grew up. And so to them, the law was extremely valuable. It was important. And that's right, it is. Matter of fact, it's still important to us today to know what God's law or God's order is, and help to understand how we're supposed to follow that, what we're supposed to do. It teaches us what to do. It teaches us what not to do. It gives us instruction. All those things are important. And so Paul is trying to write to them and say, not that those things aren't important, because we need to know what it says. We need to understand it. We need to let it govern our life. We need to let it help us make our choices. But there's a big concept here that's caught up in Romans chapter 6 and 7 that's really important for us. So in chapter 7, it actually I like to go backwards here, because chapter 7, he talks a lot about the law. And he says, I wouldn't have known what sin was except for the law. So I had to be able to understand what sin was. And the law tells me what I should be doing. Therefore, when I see that I'm not doing that, I start to understand, that is what sin is. Sin means, go back to the Hebrew concept, it is transgression of law. So when we make a mistake, we start to realize, oh, I've made a mistake. I've got a problem. And the law, God's plan, the way he laid it out in advance, the blueprints, if you will, make perfect sense, because you can look back even. I can do this in my life. I'm sure you can in yours too. You can look back and see, if I'd done it that way, that would have been best. Man, this would be working out so much better for me today if I had done what that said. But just to know that you've made an error is not great. It's important. We have to know that. But it also can leave us in a state where we feel lost. We see that we're lost. We see that we've made a mistake, but now what do we do? And what Paul is trying to teach this church here is that just seeing your mistake, understanding the problem that you had, knowing that you did something wrong, isn't salvation. That's not the blessing that God's trying to give us. Yes, he wants us to know where we err, where we make mistakes, where we have issues. He wants us to know those things. But then he wants something greater to be ours. That is this new plan that he has, that he laid out from the beginning of time, but he brought to, reality in Jesus Christ. And that is that we can be forgiven. We can live under grace. We don't have to live under the law, which is condemning us and telling us how wrong we are. But we can actually live under God's grace now because of Jesus. And so he teaches them about this, and he talks to them about that they have to appreciate and love and be so thankful for that grace. Not look at it as something God has to do or a legal transaction, but think of it as a relationship, that there was a change that occurred in us, that we no longer are under the law, but now we're under God's grace. There's been a change occur. And because of that change, we can be different people. We can be somebody different than we were before. What I want to examine on Sunday, and I want us really to think about as we talk about this, is when did that transition happen for these people? When did they move from living under the law to living under grace? What was the transition, and how did that occur? And does this same transition still have to happen for us today? Was this just a one-time thing? Was this just a moment that was happening in history? And so then these people had made that transition, and now it's all different. Who is under the law and who is under grace, and how do we know the difference? Are you today living under the law? Or are you living under grace? It's a totally different thing. It's a totally different outcome. But how do you know? How do you know where you're living? Are you living under the law or are you living under grace? Now, how you're living or the place that you're in, whether it's law or whether it's grace, is not something that you can tell by how you feel today. That's an important thing to know. There are some things that happen that move you from living under the law to living under grace. We're going to talk about that on Sunday. I hope that you'll come and be a part. I look forward to us meeting together. That's the plan, and we'll plan on that till we know different. But stay in touch. Watch your email. Reach out if you have any questions about services. Otherwise, we'll plan to see you here at 8:30, 10:30, and 5 p.m. on Sunday. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Look forward to seeing you. Be safe in the snow.